'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today I want to talk about last generation's video games. I know it's been a crazy year for games this year, but I want to take a step back today and look back into PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation of games. These are 5 games that I love from the last generation of consoles. All of these are multi-platform, so depending on what platforms you currently own, you should be able to hunt down a copy of all of these. So I will go in order of my least favorite to my favorites in this video, but all of these games have my full recommendation, and you should hopefully be able to find them pretty cheap. Without further ado, let's just get into the list of games here. We'll start with Abzu. So this game is like a diving adventure game. If you love underwater and you love the thought of exploring serene underwater vistas, is this the right word? Environments and seeing sea life up close, this game is probably for you. It's not something like, here's a whale, let's learn about the whale. Here's a turtle, let's learn about the turtle. It is a near dialogueless adventure which you explore underwater ruins and, like I said, different environments, and you go on this adventure, and it's very nice, and it's graceful, and it's sweeping, and it's hard to describe Abzu because not many games are quite like it. The best thing I can compare it to is like Journey and games like that, where the gameplay and the adventure is all it is, but that adventure makes it. Like, the journey itself is greater than the destination. Like, you don't need a lot of dialogue and insanely written characters and all this stuff to enjoy what you're doing. And Abzu kind of fits that mold of, like, you're going through it and there are things to see and things to do, but you're not rushed, you're not forced to hurry up, you don't feel like you have to hurry up, you can take it at your own pace, and it's a nice little game. It's not very long. I think about 4-ish hours is what I spent on it, so it's not long. I found it for pretty cheap when I got it, and it's very fun. It's very different, too. So if you're looking for something a little different, maybe give Abzu a try. The complete opposite of Abzu, we have Code Vein. So Code Vein, just looking at it, it is very anime. And so if you're not into that, then I guess this one wouldn't be for you. But it's just like aesthetics and how the game kind of does its story. Code Vein is a Souls-like. It's actually the first Souls-like I ever played. It is hard, like many Souls-likes are. The game does not let up. There are many moments in this game that, like, make me want to pull my hair out with how challenging it is. It is a difficult game. And, like I said, very anime, but, like, hey, the Souls-born games were born in Japan, so they know what they're doing over there. Obviously, it's a different development studio. It's not a FromSoft game, so it's different, but it's pretty cool, I think. Like, the character design, like, you can design your own character, and there's a lot of cool characters in it, and there's different, like, attack trees. You can choose your style of attack, and you can kind of go along that tree, and some are better than others, and some are better to equipped to handle different enemy types and bosses and stuff like that. But it is really cool and really good, and not a lot of people talked about it when it came out, not a lot of people talking about it now, that's for sure, and I'm sure you can find it for pretty cheap. The game is super solid. If you like Souls-likes, I think you should give it a try. Even if you don't love anime aesthetics, I think it's still worth giving a go, because it's there, and it's solid, and you may not have heard of it, and it's really good. Another very Japanese game, we have 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This game is another one that's a little bit hard to describe. Half of this game is a mech game. And I'm not talking something like Armored Core, where you design mechs and do big grandiose battles. It is a strategy game where you basically, like, control every individual person and be like, go here, attack this, do this attack now. It's slightly real time, if I remember. It's not exactly turn-based, like, enemies are constantly moving slowly when it's your turn, but it's not, like, super hard. You can crank the difficulty up if you want harder difficulties in those aspects, but the big meat of the game is the story. And this story, of course, the title, 13 Sentinels, there are 13 main characters in this game, and every one of those characters has a very long story to tell about how they all intertwine. And it's not like it's just 13 kids that know each other from school. Some of them do. Some of them know each other from school, but some of them are born hundreds of years ago. Some of them are born hundreds of years in the future. And it's a crazy tale about interlocking timelines and how they all kind of connect and all come together for this one moment where they all need to fight back in these mech suits. And it's really cool, really interesting. And that studio is making another game that's coming out next year that I'm very excited about. Of course, I'll talk about that with my most anticipated games next year list. And yeah, give 13 Sentinels a try. It is, again, it's very different from what you might expect, even me just describing it to you. It's a different game, but you know, it's published by Atlas and they do good work over there. Give it a shot. It's very good. Going from Japanese to a very American. I say American, but this is born in Australia, this franchise. Mad Max is an open world action game, which is what you want from Mad Max, isn't it? It's a ton of fun, this Mad Max game, and I feel like every time someone makes a list of games that were overlooked from last generation, Mad Max is on it, and for good reason, because still to this day, people sleep on this game, because it had such unfortunate timing. It came out the same weekend as Metal Gear Solid 5, so another open world, desert-based, highly acclaimed series. Like, that game did huge numbers, especially in the gaming community, so Mad Max immediately got covered up. But as people look back on it, it still looked back on fondly because of just how good it is. It has that style of combat that if you've played the Batman Arkham games or maybe the Shadow of Mordor games, you'll know and you'll love. It's a little bit more weighty here. When you throw a punch, you really feel the oomph of it. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more heavy. It's not as quick-paced as those two were. But on top of that, there's also vehicle combat. So you don't get the Mad Max Interceptor, but you get a car that's similar called the Magnum Opus, which you can design and build to your heart's content, have different weapons, have different abilities, and do different combat scenarios with your vehicle. And those are a lot of fun. Not many games do something like that, and that's super cool. It's just a great game, and it's a ton of fun. If you want a solid open world game, I remember the world isn't super big. If you want to do everything in it, it'll take you quite a bit of time, as a lot of open world games do. But if you just want to play the story and you want to go through it and you want to see the ending, it's not super long. It's a ton of fun. Driving around, it's fun. Beating up people in it's fun. It's just the whole game solid. So, of course, my favorite of the 5 games we're talking about today, we have Ni no Kuni 2. Developed by Level 5 Games, which, if you're familiar with this channel, you've heard me talk about before. I love Level 5. I love what they're doing over there. Ni no Kuni 2 was the game that really turned me on to them, and I'm like, this studio is amazing. I love what they're doing. I love the games they're making, and Ni no Kuni 2 might be my favorite game from them. Studio Ghibli-inspired art style, which I love. It is a really good action JRPG, which is great. I love the town building elements in this game. I love the real-time strategy segments in this game. I love the collecting the piggledy, the higgledy piggles. The higgle, whatever they're called. Higgledy piggle, higgledy piggledy, whatever they're called. I love collecting those guys. It's a blast, this entire game, from start to finish. As soon as I started up this game, the story grabbed me immediately. It's a little bit of an isekai plot, which we don't know, that's transported around the world, but then the main character, Rowan, his other co-lead, the king, the prince, a little bit of a messy thing right there, but they go and they start a new kingdom, and it's a wonderful game about learning to work together with different nations and getting back at the people that took your kingdom originally away from you. So it's awesome. There's no game quite like it out there. I wish there were. There's so many amazing characters in it. The music is wonderful. The world is amazing. I love almost every single part about this game, and I just loved existing in the world. Like I said, Level 5 Games continues to do amazing work, and I longingly await, hopefully, a Ni no Kuni 3 one day, to where it's something more like this than the first one, because I did go back and play the first Ni no Kuni. I didn't love it as much. I think people had probably the same reaction with the first one to the second one, because it's quite a bit different in terms of gameplay and style. But I played the second one first, and I love it to this day. When I think about my favorite games on the PlayStation 4, this is one that comes to mind immediately. But like I said, it's multi-platform, so depending on what you have, you hopefully will be able to find a copy of it. I love it. I really enjoy all these games, but Ni no Kuni 2 has my utmost recommendation. I adore that game. Those are some of my picks for some overlooked games of last generation that if you want to pick up and give it a try, they shouldn't be too expensive nowadays, especially because the current generation, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X generation, is a couple years into at this point, so going back and doing a little bit of hunting from last generation shouldn't be too troubled to find some of these games. None of them are super obscure, but none of them are really talked about in the conversation of best games of the generation, which is a shame because, like I said, I really enjoy all of them. So, have you played any of these? Do you enjoy any of these? Are you going to go pick any of these up? Please let me know. And that'll about do it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. And as always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.